James Altucher. Ben, thanks for having me on your stream right here in your home.
You're the best person who ever lived because you're on my stream.
Now I've achieved that rank finally. It's been a goal of mine.
Yeah. How do you remember the lecture where you compare Karpov and Kasparov and you said you prefer Karpov? I don't know. Ask questions to him. How's your Dutch?
Well, I'm gonna ask questions to you.
Yeah.
So when you became a GM in 2010, and I remember you even in tournaments in 1986, you were a year or two younger than me.
He was there at the tournament with me.
Yeah, in the
Now
U.S.
I'm
Open
older
in
than you.
1986.
Yeah, now I'm older than you.
Now you're older than I was then.
The truth hurts.
We aged at the same rate. But you became a GM like, what was it, like 23 years later. So did you stop at some point? Or?
So here's what happened.
Okay. How old were you when you became a GM? You must have been like 30.
You're confused. When I became a GM, I was 40.
Yeah.
But let me explain. The title GM, that's a title.
Yeah.
So if you don't play in tournaments that have GM norms, you're not going to become a GM ever.
Right.
So most people chase the GM title, right? And I never did that. If there was a GM tournament where I could get a norm and it cost me money, I didn't go. Like I wasn't rich like these kids nowadays. They're all getting GM norms when they're 5. But so my rating.
And there weren't a lot of GM tournaments in the United States.
No, you had to go to Europe to do that. Yeah. Not now. Now it's different.
Right.
So when I was an IM at my peak, I was 26.53 USCF and 25.63 FIDE. Wow. I'm sorry, 26.63 and 25.63. So I was higher rated than half the GMs in the world. But I didn't play in GM norm tournaments. Then there was a happenstance. I got invited to 2 GM norm tournaments where it got paid and stuff. So I got GM norms just because I got invited to tournaments. And I played in a GM norm tournament. I won the Spice Cup and I got my last GM norm. Okay, so I became a GM.
But like at the age of 40, right? Yeah. One would argue that you were past what's now considered the chess peak. I don't know if it was considered that.
No, definitely.
Because I remember when I turned 40, it was whenever it was, 2008, I looked at the top 50 list of chess players, and Anand was the only one around the age of 40. And there were nobody. Now there's actually more people above the age of 40 because everybody, Anand's older, for instance. But it's been a young game for like the past 30 years.
I mean, I was way better than a lot of GMs. I didn't have the title. So this is why, like, when people are like, "Will Levy be a GM?" Okay, Levy's 23.50 FIDE. That's his FIDE. Well, it's less now. 23.30, and I was 25.60.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I played in a tournament and I missed a GM norm by half a point, that was my rating.
Right.
So, I mean, having like a slightly good tournament, I didn't play in GM norm tournaments, but when I was 40, I definitely wasn't at my best. I was at my best probably 32 to 36.
So how would you maintain the level? Because what changes in learning from, let's say, 20 to 30 to 40? Because a lot of people listening to this maybe just started playing chess in the past couple of years since like the Queen's Gambit or they're trying to be an adult improver, they have extra time, whatever. Like what are the key things that changes as you get older and if you're consistently playing?
I talked to Karpov about this. I told you this story earlier when I was eating with them and they were like a drinking contest. I said to Karpov, I said, look, why are you not as good now as when you were at your best? What's the difference? He said, I understand chess the same.
Yeah.
There's no difference. He says, but no energy. And by the way, this is a Soviet word. Like we'll say stamina. They say energy. You have to have energy at all times. And if you're like, don't have this energy where you're like feeling it at all times and you're like slightly late. And he doesn't have the energy on the board or off the board. But on the board is what he's talking about. When you're playing, this is why when Karpov played Saro on their match, I said Karpov's going to destroy him in the blitz because the blitz isn't stamina. The blitz is just playing fast. And he crushed Yasser in the blitz because he was a world champion.
Okay, and I have a question about that too. So Karpov's known as, I'm sure he's an amazing tactical player because he's world champion and everything. But he's known for being a super solid positional player. My theory is that the more positional you are, the better you are at blitz because you don't have to calculate that much. You know, if I put my pieces here, this is better than what my opponent's doing. You don't really have to calculate big combinations.
Now, a few months ago, as you know, he probably doesn't know, there was a blitz tournament in Soviet Russia.
Of course I know.
And there was a double Swiss.
This was the one with Kasparov in it?
No.
Oh,
no.
Then I don't know.
This is a double Swiss. When you paired somebody, you play him twice. Once in white, once in black. And he got paired with Karyakin.
Okay.
Karpov. And Karpov's 800 million years old, and he was 70. And Karpov won 1.5 half against Karyakin.
Yeah.
What? And he's 1,000,000 years old. And
because you don't have to use the latest opening theory, and you have to be, if you're super solid with positional stuff, you don't have to calculate that as many combinations.
But the main issue is I compare bridge to blitz chess. And that's why a lot of the top bridge players don't get worse as they get older. When you play bridge, each hand takes like 5 minutes. So you're playing a blitz game. If in bridge you had to sit there one hand for 2 hours and make decisions for 2 hours, then they would go downhill. And this is what happens in chess. If Karpov plays a 4-hour game, there's no energy the 4th hour. He's exhausted.
Right, but so in the first 2 hours, let's say, what advantages do we all have from being older as opposed to being younger? Because there must be
experience.
Age must give as well as take.
No, the experience. If end game play, boring positions, no tactics. Karpov's not worse than anybody. He said that. He said, I'm the same, but I have no energy. So he said, if it's a position where there's no tactical calculation, it's just like understanding, he understands as well as anybody.
But I'm not sure I believe, though, that it happens across the board to all. Don't forget, Karpov-Kasparov, their first match, Karpov ran out of energy, by game 45 or whatever.
Yeah, he was a lot older.
He was a little older.
He was a lot older, yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's like 12 years older than Kasparov.
But now these kids are getting to be like 2,500s at the age of 12.
That's why I hate kids.
It's not quite energy. It's not like a 12-year-old has more energy than a 40-year-old, right? Like,
what? Did you say a 12-year-old doesn't have more energy than a 40-year-old? Is that what you said?
I don't believe that's true. Like a 12-year-old is still, developing his energy or her energy. But 40-year-old, like you say, has more experience, so could understand more positions, has a bigger vocabulary of
Brandon
positions.
doesn't agree with you. Cocaine is a hell of a drug. You watched every second of the Chappelle Show 50 times or no?
I have watched every episode of the Chappelle Show, but I've more watched his recent specials. You
I've
guys
watched
like
those too.
His Dave Chappelle's recent specials? Is like
his recent specials I don't like as much as his old, when he was younger.
That's probably true. You know why? Because
thanks for the raid.
He has problems now. Like back then, his main problems were like how to be funny. But now he's funny and he has this big problem with transgender people. So he can't be. It's like chess. He has more things on his mind, so he can't be as funny unless he relies on his experience. Like you have to fall back on your experience and some wisdom. Even as an adult, let's say you're learning chess. So let's say you're 40 and you're learning chess, or you're coming back to it to be a GM. Like you were a strong chess player. Let's say you were coming back to it at 40. What would you do differently in your training than a young person?
Well, I'm the wrong guy.
Also, kids have no sex. Now, remember the Seinfeld that you were telling me about?
Yeah.
So.
Right. I'm the wrong guy to ask about that. And also, the kids having no sex, I have no.
Makes them
comment.
smarter.
I have no comment about whether kids have sex. Now, for me, chess wasn't like the number one thing at all times. It has been. But as you get older, you got other shit to do. You got a wife, you got kids, you got a house, you got to pay stuff. And when you're a kid and your parents decide, you could spend all your time on chess, that's great. Then and their brains work differently. They haven't formed the things that you can't form later when your brain's already, kids learn things quicker, even languages. But I think the kids have a lot of interest in chess when they're younger, if they're introduced and they're good and they're studying and such. And I think as an adult learner, you got other shit going on. You can't just devote all of your time to chess because you have a life also.
Which I hate that aspect of it because always everybody's interested in something and they always want to get better at whatever it is. But you're right. There's always other things going on, like a job, a mortgage, kids, wife, you married.
Also, would you spend, well, not you, but would a normal person spend $1,000 a month on a chess coach? A normal adult would not. Not a normal adult.
No, I think, but people spend $1,000 a month on like MMA and
no, right. But a parent will for their kid.
Yeah.
The parent's like, my kid could, give him chess lessons. Yeah, great. So it's, kids are just, are so good now. And I was telling Kieran a few days ago, chess is unfair now because of the kids. And then he was just saying that when he came into my house. Because when we were kids, we're the same age. When we were kids.
0 kids were in tournaments.
Yeah, like if you saw a kid in a tournament, you're like.
It must be a prodigy.
Now if you see an adult, you're like, what's this adult doing in this tournament?
So, I heard you say recently, don't study openings. And it does seem, if you're an adult and you have limited time, you should study one or two openings to be familiar with the middle game and end game positions that come out of those openings. Sorry if I'm taking up this with chess talk.
Well, no, but that depends on what your strength is. So if you're 500, 600, 700, openings don't matter at all. If you're 1700 and you want to get to 2000, you can't just play the opening like a beginner. You got to play a little bit better. Now, I'll tell you a story. I know a guy whose daughter was actually in 9/11, was in the building and died.
Wow.
And he's a professor of chemistry at University of Michigan. His name's Ali Lin. And he moved back to Burma/Myanmar because that's where he's from. They got divorced. He moved back. He was 2200 USCF.
Yeah.
He didn't know any openings. And here's what I mean. He didn't know the names of openings.
Yeah.
He didn't know what the opening was. He just played chess.
Yeah.
I've never seen a 2200 player know zero about chess, and he was 2200. He was really good at tactics. And
so
he was a great blitz player, but on move 1 or 2, he'd sit there going, well, now what do I do?
Well, that's my other thinking is that if you're super good at tactics, like let's say you've gone through book after book on tactics and puzzles and problems, then if you just develop your pieces, you can probably handle any situation.
Yeah.
But the kids are good at tactics. The damn kids are good at tactics.
Yeah, when I'm playing a kid, I try to play as boring as possible. By the way, in the U.S. Championship, they used to have where the men and the women played in the same group, and the top woman was the women's champion. That's not a good idea for a lot of reasons. So in the last round of the U.S. Championship, I was having a middling tournament, as I know to do, and Jen Shahadi was killing it. Jen Shahadi was getting IM norms with 2 rounds to go, and she was beating men and so forth. In the last round, she played me. The other women who were a point behind her played women who were really low rated. So by me winning, everybody tied for first, even though Jen's performance rating was like 2550 and theirs was like 2300. Okay. But anyway, the point is, I know Jen. I knew Jen before you were born, and you're older than me. And
well, I'm older than Jen.
Yeah, you're older than me too.
Yeah,
barely. Okay. And Jen likes to play sharp theory and checkmate you. And she did that in the U.S. Championship. She played high-rated players. She played Najdorf and Dragon and Grunfeld, and she checkmated people. Okay? When I played her, I played stuff I never played before. You couldn't be more boring. If I showed you the game, you'd fall asleep. Okay? And I won an equal endgame because that's how you beat Jen. So, and Jen is sort of like the little kid in our discussion. Like, she plays like a little kid. She's good at theory, attacks, checkmates you, sees tactics. I got rid of all of that. And I used my and I was an old man then. It was a long time ago. That's how old I am. And I took her out of her game, and that's the only way you can beat kids now. Unfortunately, kids are good at like other things too now, not just tactics. They got a lot better. They're good at strategy too.
They've got the openings. They've got. It's hard to outplay.
Yeah, like Abdus Satorov, Nihal Sarin, Praggnanandhaa, Iragasi. I mean, they know everything. It's not just tactics. They understand chess better than anybody.
I'm very impressed you can pronounce their names.
Well, I probably mispronounced Iragasi, but I used to be able to know how to spell Praggnanandhaa. And inside Praggnanandhaa is Anand.
Yeah.
It's right in there.
That's the easy way to write it. So it's Pragg, and then Anand, and then a few more
What's
letters.
funny is his other name is also crazy. You know what his other name is?
No.
They just put R. It's Ramesh Babu. It's almost as long. He's got 2 really long names. That's why he's so good.
And he's 16.
At least, or at most.
So he hasn't spent that many years studying, as far as we know. I mean, he's probably spent like 5, 6, 7 years really studying.
No, he's a genius. I mean, I think Nihal Sarin's better, but it doesn't matter. They're all... Iragasi's amazing, and Abdus Satorov is amazing, and they're amazing, and they're just kids. And I knew them all 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago when nobody else did, because I was always coaching the World Youth for America, and I'd be like, okay, that's the best kid. Like, I'm saying, who are the best kids in this tournament? And that's who it was. When they were 9, 10, 11, I like, oh, that guy's good. Got to watch it.
Who's the last U.S. person to win World Junior? There was a
Jeffrey Shong. Jeffrey Shong is the last one.
There was a kid.
He was 15. He was 15. He won the World Junior.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's up to 20 too. Yeah, it was Jeffrey.
I remember this is like 10 years ago. I wrote an article that no parent should send their kids to college. So this one,
I wouldn't say no, but I sort of agree with that.
Yeah, because college
yeah.
is just you don't really learn anything that's applicable in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the crappiest school all the way up to Harvard is all they're all 70,000 a year now, and everybody gets into so much student loan debt. But this one woman writes me and says, "Listen, my son read your article. Now he doesn't want to go to college. What are you going to do about it?"
Yeah, what are you going to do about it?
And I said, "Well, what does he do?" And she said, "Well, my son plays. He wants to play chess. He just won either the World Junior Championship or the U.S. Junior Championship. And this was about 10 years ago." And so I said, "Okay, I'll take lessons from him for a few months."
Yeah.
And so I did, but I completely forget his name. I'm not remembering his name. And then he ended up going to Harvard.
It's funny. There was a kid who went to UCLA when he was 14, and he was maybe the U.S. Junior champion from California.
This guy was from Manhattan. He went to like the Dalton School. And I completely forget his name.
And he was, man, talk about spelling Shang wrong. Jesus Christ.